Great, good evening and welcome to this special board meeting, or not originally on the schedule. It's 5 p.m. So we'll start this meeting. This meeting is a meeting of the Board of Education in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business and is not to be considered a public community meeting. There is time for public participation during the meeting as indicated in the agenda below. Upon request, the superintendent of the district shall make reasonable accommodation for a person with disabilities to be able to participate in this meeting. Per current Washtenaw County health mandate regarding high COVID-19 transmission, all attendees will be required to wear their masks and physically distance, and wear your mask over your nose and mouth. Everybody's looking good. So I will call this meeting to order officially. Oh, please do the roll call.
Mr. Albury.
Here.
Mr. Arnold.
Correct.
Mrs. Bruderling. Here. Mrs. Greatorex.
Here.
Ms. Angus. Mr. Bundy.
Here.
Mrs. Rivera. Here. The more I think, the more we're getting. Mr. Naughton.
Here.
Mr. Patel.
Next is the approval of the meeting minutes from December 6th, 2020 meeting. I move that the Board of Education approve the minutes from December 6th as presented.
Second motion.
Any discussion? With no discussion, we'll put it to a vote. All those in favor of approving the meeting minutes from December 6th, 2020, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. They have been approved. Next on, we will go to the approval of the agenda.
I move to approve the agenda, but I'd like to amend the section E to add number 3, student representative update. I think that got inadvertently left out.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Okay. We will put the amended agenda up for a vote. All those in favor of the agenda with the amendment, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. The amended agenda has been approved. We are on to section D, which is public participation. Each speaker is allowed a maximum of 5 minutes for a total of 30 minutes unless otherwise notified. At this point in the meeting, those interested in making a public comment will be asked to raise their hands so that the time may be divided equally. Each speaker will be asked to announce their name and district of residence and indicate if they represent any organization or agency. No person may speak more than once on the same subject during a single meeting. And because this is public comment, it's not a back and forth. If you would like to receive a personal message or personal response to the board or the superintendent, you must complete a public comment form available at the meeting entrance and on our website. Is there anyone who would like to speak publicly? No? Okay, we shall move on to our administrative and board updates. First is our superintendent update.
One thing I'd love to is we are on break.
Yeah.
And all of our staff are ready to have a break and forward and back are ready to have it back in about an hour.
Okay.
Got a lot of questions.
Next is the board president update. I don't have anything. So let's kick it over to the students for their update.
I'll go first. So in the Creekside, nothing really to report on. There's winter breaks in all the schools right now. At Mill Creek, they had some spirit activities, and they're saying that it's been a tough school year, so well-deserved break. Same thing in the high school. Spirit Day happened the week up to winter break, and then everyone's taken the week off. Preparations for the end of the semester are in place, so it's kind of everything going on.
At Beacon on the 16th, the school had their first assembly since 2019. Former Ann Arbor librarian Laura Rader was the guest storyteller, and they also had different activities that took place throughout the week. At Anchor, all I know of is activities throughout the week took place, and at Wiley, Science Alive came. Students curled around the school, and they had a spirit.
We will move on to our consent items, which is the November budget report. Consent.
I'm sorry, I forgot the note.
So I move that we receive the November budget report.
Any discussion?
Just receive or to?
Please receive it. It's that monthly report. It's just the monthly budget report that we do every year.
Yeah, I'd like to make one comment on it though. It's not, that we met last week. I want to highlight and thank Sharon and Superintendent Timmons and all the support staff and all the teachers really, administrative, because you look in the budget was added, we talked about finance meeting. One of the things during COVID that was always an issue was how do we get the kids to, better reading and math. That's kind of been a gap, right? In the new budget, you'll see there's a K2 reading intervention teacher, a Wiley Sparks support teacher, and a Creek Side and Mill Creek math acceleration teachers, all at the lower levels, where that's probably where the gap is, it's going to make the most difference. Well, that's probably where there's a gap identified. And there's also 5 different types of social workers, the district-wide social worker, K2, and increased psychologists. All, I kind of want to point that out, because all have to do with mental health. And, no one's here, probably no one's watching, but nobody is watching.
I'll watch it later.
Okay, well, that's one of the things that was of interest to everybody.
Are you commenting on the budget, the new budget?
That's actually the new one.
Oh,
Yeah, so it's just a report, but
oh, I'm sorry. Okay, but still, we get to the new budget.
I just want clarification.
Yeah, okay, we get to the new budget. I want you to know it's in there, because whatever side you've been on any issue here, that's one thing everybody agreed upon was mental health, support for mental health for the kids, and also how to get the gap, how to improve the gap that happened because of distance learning. Thank you for correcting me.
is there any more discussion on the consent items? All right. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor of approving the consent items, which is the November budget report, say aye.
Aye. Sorry, that needs to be received or not.
Received, sorry, received. Right. Thank you. All those opposed? Say nay. It has been received. Then we'll move on to our action items, which is to approve our new DHS and MC courses. This evening's packet includes proposals for the 10 new DHS courses and 1 new Mill Creek course, which we previously discussed at the December 6th meeting, and they are now presented for action this evening.
I move that the Board of Education approve 10 new DHS courses, film and literature, integrated studies, introduction to marine biology, jazz band, math elective, science laboratory strategies and safety, Shakespeare, sports economics and marketing, student support and study strategies, web design, 1 Mill Creek course, Mandarin language for fall 2020.
Is there any discussion?
I just wondered whether there were any updates from any of the discussions that we had here at the. A couple other things. Just
So,
any updates?
yeah, any updates we had was,
What was changing the title?
the question on jazz band was, eligibility for jazz band, and Mr. Koenig, correct me if I'm wrong, it was, had to be in a music course for now.
Yes, to be eligible to be into the jazz band, you also have to participate in another music course. That was done so that the upper music course, which tends to lend all its musicians to the jazz ensemble, would not lose participation in the upper music course. And basically would cannibalize it one program to expand the program.
We need to change that or do amend it there. Prerequisites in the package still says, unless I'm missing it, it still says, well, audition or permission of instructor.
It's probably permission or probably.
We can add that to it because it's still gonna include a audition to get into the jazz band.
Correct, but it takes it, you have to have a course, other course, right?
Correct.
Does music include vocal and orchestra?
Yes.
So
I have that same question. I came up with that as well. I was like, well, can't we have jazz singers?
if we leave it as it is, it does allow the future to expand out to say that this is too restricted, they have to be another course, but maybe if we leave it as audition or permission of instructor, then open up the door later. If we add, must be another course, then we have to bring it back up. We do that next. But I've seen with courses, you always have great management. And then different teachers come along, different groups of kids come along, and it just evolves.
And then we have, I think there was a question as to the student support and study strategies title. Did that stick, or are we just calling it less, or?
We want to call it student strategies, or we have another name, we bounce around it, Chelsea and Celine.
Chelsea and Celine also have a very similar course they call it Student Strategies. So that meets the state requirements of all of the schedule codes that we would need to submit in state reporting. So we can keep it as student strategies and support, or we can get rid of the support. It's going to be the same, I think.
Would make it more attractive.
Student strategies.
Study
Study
strategies,
strategies.
whatever will meet the requirements.
Well, and the truth is, whatever name it is on paper, whatever name people start using in school is probably more important. So for me, for approval of the course, I don't exactly care what it says on paper here. I just want to make sure that people feel good about signing up for it. So whatever counselors and teachers are using, that's probably more important in the slang world.
So do we want to approve this, the name that's given student support and study strategies, or do you want the student strategies with the I don't want, if we just do study strategies, it sounds like study hall. I don't want just study strategies.
Right.
The whole section, we go down.
The other districts are called student strategies, but that probably makes sense. I assume that if it makes any difference to like NCAA or anything like that would be. It's just-
More simplistic. Just trying to make it less type.
Got it. Let's just go student strategies then.
Is that all right?
So then you go amend the motion before you go. I think that was all we had, right?
Yep.
I'll amend my motion to reflect the new name of the course as student strategies.
I would second.
Any more discussion? And I just wanted to thank you for coming back and clearing that up. And
No worries. My pleasure.
This is last high school leader duty. Now you just come out of a whole bunch of different.
is there any more discussion? So we put the approval with the amendment to a vote. All those in favor of approving the DHS and Mill Creek courses with the amended name for student strategies, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. It has been approved. Moving on to our second action item, which is the 2021-2022 November budget amendment. This is what you've been waiting for.
Motion.
I'll move to, the 2021 November budget
Second motion.
Okay, we can turn it over to discussion. I didn't read the little blurb, but That's okay, it was my bad. The finance committee, met Friday, December 17th, to review and discuss the proposed 2021-2022 November budget amendment. Following that meeting, CFO Sharon Ratchke is going to share the proposed budget and finance committee recommendation with the full board. It's been posted, we had a chance to look at it. Does anyone have any discussion or questions for Dr. Ratchke or Sharon? As always, high praise and kudos. Thank you so much. I know how that you work very hard and your staff.
I guess I just wondered if there's any high level things for those of us who weren't at the committee meeting that you want to point out to us. I'd appreciate.
Certainly.
Thoughts.
So I apologize for the delay. Normally this comes in November, but I really wanted to take the extra time to identify the grants, the COVID-related grants, and all of the revenues and expenditures that we would include in the budget this year, instead of waiting until June and doing some scramble for another revision. So included in the budget is, as we normally do, the programs that we have in place, the number of students. From a high level standpoint, we're up 30 students from last October, although because of the blended super blend that the state did last year, we're actually losing funding on 156 students because they kind of softened it last year, but we didn't have that full makeup this year that we were anticipating. Although we did get an increase from the state of $307, so our foundation is now $8,700 per student. In your packet is the continuation of the list that we kind of started last year of all of the grants overview. So I'm just keeping a running tally of the various grants that are out there related to COVID and the revenue associated with them in the fiscal year that we're taking the revenue. And then the use of funds is now maybe like a high level on the right column. It tells you how we're spending the funds. You'll notice in some of the notations that it says additional staff, which means if we didn't have that grant, we wouldn't have done that program and we wouldn't have had the expenses at all. And then there's actually staff like Anchor, where we would have paid for them out of general fund. We maybe wouldn't have had as many staff as we do now if we didn't have the grant. But those are funds that are offsetting general fund expenditures.
Summarize what we use the ESSER money for, was we reduced class sizes in the grades to help support kids. Child care relief support for essential workers, when we first had to open up because of that. Hybrid course options all through last year with small class sizes. Technology to support virtual hybrid in person. Hotspots and internet access for families last year. And then the Dread Strong Summer Program for teachers, camp support, transportation, food nutrition, custodial administrative support, teacher growth and development, implement post-pandemic learning models, so a lot of the training and all the different curricular moves we've made. Reading intervention for 5th through 6th grade, along with phonics instruction and all the training for that. We've added counselors, social workers, psychologists, supports for mental health, social emotional learning supports. Added nurse to support students and to support assessment. We have math acceleration in grades 5 through 8. Speeds the kids up and quicker, but because of the way the year went last year, they needed some extra supports. Instructional supports and training to accelerate learning for all students and across grade levels. We have extra literacy intervention staff in the earliest grades. And then food meal kits. I think I got it all in those bullets. I hope I had to show it in one box.
Those funds cover two categories in my mind. One is the new programs that Chris just went through, the additional programs we wouldn't have otherwise, but also the degree that was agree that we accomplished things there, that adds money to the bottom line at the end of this year. It's a category that doesn't have any restrictions on it. So that gives us more cherry for it we can use over the following years as much as possible.
I appreciate this very thoughtful breakdown. It really makes it very simple. I love that you actually put when you match the grant to what you're doing too, because I have a feeling you're gonna need to track it. I love that you did that. Make your job easier in the long run. Yep, thank you.
So some things of note though is to look at the all rate trend sheet. We have significant grant funds in here. So if you look at the 2021-2022 November budget revision, it would be 729,000 revenue over expense projected. But then the projection for next year is to start at 1.6 million expense over revenue, and then it gets worse from there. Some of the anticipations of those, if you look at student count, this year we're at 3417. We plan to be up to 105 next year, so that's about the number we are up. It's great, if we're not up, big number. And then healthcare is pretty steady, it's a 3% increase, and we built in a 1% increase in salary and wages. The projections of 0 is the assumption, and then built the foundation allowance plan. So between the incremental gain in students, incremental increase in cost, flat revenue, it'll be probably fairly close.
We lived with this trend for a number of years, up until about 3 or 4 years ago when the intermediate school really passed. So there were a couple of years when we actually got to see if we could get funds to sustain stuff long term without doing anything dramatic. Now we're back to the same one we were in before, where it just says we're going to have to make decisions each successive year to make things more fiscally responsible and sustainable.
And next year does include 952,000 in ESSER 3 and 651,000 plus money towards the that agreement that we had to get the money. We had to say that we would continue to do it for whatever we get this year, 2/3 next year,
And then 1/3.
1/3, and then 0. So we have to assume cost over time. So it shows the decrease of the state money. That keeps the expense.
One thing, our school districts get in trouble that aren't in good shape, is that's why when they get through college with the legislature, a lot of people
They'll change the rules. They'll change the rules after we did it. They'll
So
change
maybe they'll come up with more money too to make up for the loss.
You explained to everybody what you did the other day, how the extra fund balance we have this year is kind of, just really not extra fund balance, there's some fund balance, how it's spread out with the years.
So when the revenue exceeds expense, which we do anticipate this year, revenue will exceed expense. And then we do anticipate positive variances that will further have revenue over expense. Then that's when in the summer and then next fall, the board will decide, the finance committee will discuss where that extra fund balance would be allocated. So last year, if you recall, and why I included it in the packet, the kind of the pretty colored sheet is where the current fund balances are designated to. And that would be then a discussion on what lines to adjust or identify a new commitment because we are going to have years of, we're not going to have revenue anymore. And so if we don't correspondingly reduce our expenses, we're able to have some fund balance to be able to soften what we need to do for a few years. So we intentionally do put money into committed balances so that we don't have to jerk around the programs just based on the fact that we got a 1-year grant. but you also want to be cautious because you don't want to fund, ongoing expenses out of your fund balance because you have fund balance one time. So it's a balance that we discuss multiple times each year to try to be able to just keep our program consistent and stable going forward. And so that is why you have that in here again, is to keep your eyes on where our fund balance is currently allocated.
The model for that would be when we brought full-time kindergarten. How many million did we pull out fund balance over a period of 4 or 5 years?
Like 2 million to be able to fund all the,
So we started out in the first year, gradually worked our way down. So at the end of 4 or 5 years, we had to be on our own. So it's the same mechanism that we were looking at.
and we did start that already this past year. To have a little long-term planning associated with it. So did that,
Yeah, I mean, I explained it to us.
They are cognizant that we do not want to drop off.
and normally I just want to add at this time, and after we normally do our November revision, the principals and the program directors do a narrative for you on where they're at compared to budget, which we just revised. So I just didn't even worry about that before break. Now that we'll have the budget revision in January, we'll circle back with the principals and program directors to be able to provide you with that first narrative for the year on what's happening in the various programs.
This is a real fine balance because we don't want to shortchange kids with money that's available, but we want to do it very carefully so that in the long run, we don't end up with a major problem. Sorry.
Like I said, it looks good, and Dan, what you pointed out earlier, the allocations for the mental health, things that we've been talking about, it's all very good.
If I can too just add, I'm not sure if that you got updated, but the resolution in your original packet was updated. At the bottom, it talks about that this resolution is being adopted by the board at a regular meeting. And because this is actually a special meeting of the board, the actual resolution is updated for special meeting.
And the resolution is actually 4 different budget amendments.
Correct, one for each budget fund. Each fund we're required to budget by state statute. Okay.
Aye. Any opposed? Say nay. Okay. It has been approved. We're moving on to our discussion items. We have not planned, so we'll move on to our second opportunity of public participation. Each speaker is allowed a maximum of 3 minutes for a total of 15 minutes. Otherwise, notified. As part of the meeting, those interested in making public comment will be asked to raise their hands at the time they may be by people. Each speaker will be asked to announce their name and indicate if they represent any organization or agency. No person may speak more than once on the same subject, so if anyone wants to speak, they spoke the first one. Can't speak on the same subject. And those wishing to receive a personal response from the board or superintendent must be a comment form. This is not a two-way discussion. Is there anyone in the public who wishes to comment? Seeing none, we will move on to board comments, which includes the policy committee.
Just a brief update, the policy committee met on December 14th. We looked at 4 different policies that we'll be bringing to the full board in January. We have a few more that need to go through our financial officer before they can come back to the board, so they're getting a little bit spaced out. So we will regroup and bring those to everyone in January. And then I just wanted to provide an update. I know we've been kind of hanging on to a movie policy guideline, and after speaking with the Michigan Association of School Boards and Dr. Timmis, we felt like the policy itself was not an issue, and that maybe the administrative guidelines needed to be updated in terms of making choices about curriculum items, and that was advised to us by MASB, and Dr. Timmis is looking at that and moving forward with it. So we do not believe a policy change is needed at this point with our board policies. It is an administrative guideline that will be updated. And that's about it.
Does anyone else have any comments?
Enjoy the break. Merry Christmas to everyone.
That's a solid comment. All right, then we will move on to the next item on our agenda, which is adjournment.
Thank you for taking the time to meet today so we can do 2 meetings.
Sharon, I think this is almost like Sharon. You as well.
I know Monday,
Thank you.
We got 2 different neighbors, everyone,